starting 2019 in the best possible way. Time to high five, and Zaferes, running the second time, wins a WTS event, and she's done it in a really gutsy way.
So this year the season started out really well with my first win in a few years in Abu Dhabi. I was very excited because the year before I had been on the podium quite a few times, but hadn't clinched a win since Hamburg 2016, and to come back and have my first race of the season be a win was just really exciting, and it kind of, I guess in a way, set the tone for the rest of the year.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.
After doing Abu Dhabi, we had a pretty decent break. It was about a month and a half until Bermuda, and for me, Bermuda was one that I went into with a lot of goals, and just because of how Flora had raced it the year before so dominantly, and I wanted to be like her. I saw how she could do it, and I thought I could do something similar, and so I prepared for that race. I watched the race from 2018, just being able to push it from the start to the finish, and even better because my parents and Tommy, my husband's parents, were there as well, and also two of my aunts, so I got to share that race with them, which is probably one of my proudest races that I've done this year. So that was just plus Bermuda is just amazing and beautiful in itself, so that whole event was just really a good feeling and really a cool way to both perform and just experience that. And then came Yokohama, which was another win, and to come away with that win was also very cool. And after that race, me and USA Triathlon and Tommy, we went and visited the Tokyo test event, or the Tokyo Olympic course, and at the time it wasn't really constructed, but we got to check out things and kind of get a feel for where the race was going to take place and start preparing. And for me, the more preparation I have, the better I do. So with Yokohama and then being able to check out the course, it was kind of like, it made it extra, not meaningful, but I was able to prepare even more for what was to come later in the season.
Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand.
To come back to Leeds and really focus on being ready for the bike course and being able to execute that, and for that we went straight from Yokohama to Leeds, so I was able to wake up at like the sunrise and go and ride the course and get familiar with it, and I think that was really helpful. And then once it came to the race, racing against Georgia and Jess again, and Georgia, she made a move on me and I don't know, like halfway through the race, and I was like, oh, it was just, she went from like whatever running with me to the amount of time that she won by in the end, and just kept that gap for pretty much 5K of the race. And I kept trying to think, okay, Katie, just like cut down like 2 seconds this lap, 2 seconds this one, and I cut 0 seconds down each time. But I mean, it was still, I was really proud of that race. Even though it wasn't a win, it was still a very, one I was proud of for different reasons, and also a very cool atmosphere. And yeah, I really like infiltrating like the Brit podiums, so it was pretty fun.
You gotta raise a little hell.
Montreal was another race where I just love it. I really like Montreal. I enjoy the city. I enjoy that it's really close to home for me. So I had learned from Leeds with Georgia, and so when Georgia and I came off the bike and we're running together, I just kept telling myself, be ready, be ready, be ready for her to like make that move that she had made in Leeds and I wasn't able to cover. And so I was ready. We ran together, and in the last, I don't know, 200 or so meters, I just started sprinting and never looked back. All my finishing shots are very terrible because I run at fear for the last like 100 meters. With Hamburg, I was going into it pretty well. It was rainy, so it made me a little nervous, and one of the corners, in the first couple laps, I think. One of the other athletes came down in front of me, and I tried my best to save it, but ended up landing on top of her, physically fine, and I got up quickly, but I couldn't figure out that my gears were a bit jammed in the back, and I just like missed packs kind of passing me, and ended up catching at that point like the chase pack. But for the day after, I had a really good relay leg, so that was kind of a bit of a redemption from the day before, but overall the USA placing was not what we were looking for, and so Hamburg as a whole outcome wise was not what we went in to achieve, and just kind of like it was just like a little bit of a lull in the first part of the season. After that, after Hamburg, not based off of the Hamburg result, but just because we'd had such a good start to the season with races and we're in a good place for the standings, decided not to race Edmonton, and I think that was a good decision. It was really good to get in a lot of training, and we went to Tokyo, and I was the most prepared and happy and like ready for that race. And I even on race day, like, I mean, handling nerves and stuff, I felt really good about everything. I felt prepared. I thought going after Yokohama like was really insightful and helpful, and found little treasures of Tokyo training, which is hard to come by, but I would be like, oh, found a 1.2K bike loop that I can do endlessly, uninterrupted. So like all that was really good. But then race day, had a good swim, came out of the water pretty well, had 2.5, I think, laps of the bike before I took myself out with a barrier, and something that like I never even really considered visualizing. I never even thought about crashing on a straight, crashing myself out, like that wasn't part of the plan. So with that, and well, ending up in the hospital, I had 23 stitches in my mouth and broken nose, and then just like kind of impact to one of my shoulders and one of my legs, and that was not ideal, and and really disappointing, because obviously a big goal this year was to qualify for the Olympics and to qualify the first opportunity that I had. So I was both bummed and concerned, because then my setup for being world champion, where I had to finish 12th or better, seemed a lot harder when you're sitting in the hospital room right after a race that you really wanted to do well at. So we went to Tanon-les-Bains across the lake from Lausanne in France for a training camp, and well, I was happy we got there early because I was able to go to the course and check it out. I was happy we got there a few days early in the week so we could also ride it, and I think that really helped me, and just kind of being confident in myself that if I get dropped on the technical sections, I'm strong enough to close the gaps, which ended up being my main race tactic for the bike. I was more conservative on the corners, and I wasn't at my best, but I was calm and collected, and I would close gaps that formed. And for the last lap, Jess was more in control, I would say, than I was, and I was just getting into my head and telling myself that like I needed to stay there, I needed to stay attached to her, and really just sprinted through the finish because I didn't want to take a chance of anything there. I'm not sure if it's one thing that has really influenced like the pattern of going up 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but I think a lot of it's just really being consistent. I've had the same coach and been really happy with the group we're with training with Tommy, my husband. I mean, he is definitely like a reason that I've gotten better, and also really focusing on like the mental aspect and continuously working on my weaknesses, but not in a way that's like single-minded on them, because I also recognize my strengths, but just working to be better, I guess, all around, and knowing that I'm good as I am. For next season, well, I don't know what comes after the like step-ups. I'm hoping maybe a medal, but No, I mean, yeah, qualifying for the Olympics, because that was one of the biggest goals this year that I didn't achieve. So that's something that I definitely is the biggest first goal, and then the Olympics would be my biggest second goal. And just continuing to keep that process going, trusting in it, and continuing to get better.